Some horrifying cases related to video games in history. There has never been a shortage of fanatical murderers who enjoy toying with human lives, even turning them into works of art to satisfy their twisted desires. The sheer terror and inhumanity of these individuals are what make us shudder every time their names are mentioned. And there is no gaming theme better than borrowing the real horrors of history to amplify human fear. But in today's video, we will discuss the opposite. And hello, it's me, MG Horror Studio. Today, we won't delve into how game developers have exploited real-life cases. Instead, we'll talk about how certain games have prompted individuals to commit frightening acts, as well as the dark aspects you may not have known. Now, before we begin, I hope you can take a few seconds to like the video, click the notification bell, and subscribe to support us in creating more new videos. Execution Day at the high school on December 14, 2014, just 10 days before Christmas. Students of Sandy Hook Elementary School in Fairfield County, located in the northeastern part of Connecticut, USA, went to school as usual. The children chatted happily about last night's TV shows and eagerly anticipated the approaching Christmas Eve, unaware that today would be the most extraordinary day of their lives. At 9:35 a.m., halfway through the morning class, Adam Lanza appeared in a black military-style uniform, reinforced with a bulletproof vest and a mask, carrying a Glock semi-automatic pistol and a SIG Sauer rifle. Just minutes after he was seen, gunshots rang out, screams echoed, and the chaotic footsteps of everyone present engulfed Sandy Hook Elementary School. Someone quickly called the police in panic, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. About 5 minutes after the shooting, Adam Lanza was found dead with a gun still in his hand. The victims were swiftly transported to the hospital in critical condition. Unfortunately, on that horrifying execution day, 28 people lost their lives, with 2 injured, and the most tragic aspect was that among the victims, only 7 were teachers. The rest were students of the school. By now, you may be wondering how this execution day is related to our current topic. Am I playing with the title to grab your attention? Well, after the police arrived to clean up the crime scene, they also identified the perpetrator and examined his motives. Adam Lanza was a high-achieving student at Newtown High School, with no criminal record in the past. However, like many others who commit crimes, Adam's family was not truly happy. His parents divorced in 2009, and he lived with his mother in a small house just 8 kilometers away from Sandy Hook Elementary School, the site of the execution. Those close to the gunman mentioned that he was a generally well-behaved child with some psychological issues. His brother, Ryan, stated that Adam had personality disorders and a touch of autism, while classmates suggested he had Asperger's syndrome, a developmental disorder leading to communication difficulties in children. Notably, the investigative report revealed that the catalyst for Adam's unacceptable actions was linked to the game, Call of Duty, released by Activision in 2003. Call of Duty is essentially a first-person shooter game across various platforms, initially set in World War II but expanding into future wars and universes. In essence, the game allows you to shoot anyone you dislike in the game, except for your own team, and Adam was one of its devoted fans. Adam's relatives confirmed that he spent hours playing the game instead of interacting with people, believing that the violence in Call of Duty may have triggered the inhuman actions he took. Of course, since Adam passed away immediately after the shooting, there is no concrete evidence to prove this argument. Some argue that blaming Adam's actions on gaming addiction is a narrative woven by the media to deflect responsibility from the state government's failure in gun control. However, it cannot be denied that the game influenced the gunman to some extent, or at least his preferences. President Obama once ordered a deeper investigation into this issue, but, as you know, the results didn't lead anywhere. Similarly to Adam, in 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold executed 12 students and 1 teacher at Columbine High School in Colorado. However, unlike Adam, these 2 individuals were immediately sent to a mental institution afterward. Investigations unfolded, and this time, many allegations with grounds pointed out that Eric and Dylan were mimicking the shootings in the video game Doom by ID Software. The evidence in this case is more accurate and reliable than Adam's, causing a significant controversy over whether or not children should play violent video games online. Even the parents of the victims once filed a lawsuit demanding a $5 billion compensation from ID Software. Although the lawsuit was later dismissed by the court, it couldn't deny the fact that Doom played a role in the heartbreaking case involving Eric and Dylan. The tragic fate of the children not only causing teenagers to commit horrifying acts, seemingly harmless games also contribute to tragic events involving parents. First, let's talk about the Huffmeyer family, Mr. Petra Huffmeyer and Mrs. Lester Lewis. They were a seemingly ordinary couple living in a mobile home in Anaheim, California, with their 2 daughters. Everything would have been normal if this couple wasn't not only obsessed with games but also had a peculiar interest in the field of virtual gardening. The game they favored was the famous online game, World of Warcraft, released by Blizzard in 2004, set in the fictional Warcraft universe with diverse races. It allowed players to explore, interact with others, and even build their own virtual family. Unlike other fans, Mr. and Mrs. Huffmeyer preferred spending time in the Warcraft world rather than with their children. What's even more appalling? They could still play the game in a house resembling a garbage dump. The kitchen was covered in dust and cobwebs, with rotting and moldy food emitting a foul odor, as if a dozen sacrificed mice had lived there. Trash, bottles, jars, and all sorts of debris cluttered the floor. The 2 Huffmeyer daughters had to endure this horrifying environment while their parents spent entire days in Warcraft. A neighbor inadvertently witnessed this and reported it to the local police. Quickly, everything was resolved, but the condition of the 2 children was so dire that authorities couldn't help but express their astonishment. The 2 girls appeared severely malnourished, with filthy bodies, decayed teeth, tangled and dry hair, and had been deprived of food for days. Both were then taken into care by social welfare agencies, while Mr. and Mrs. Huffmeyer were sentenced to 3 to 5 years in prison for child neglect. Authorities revealed that both had been unemployed for an extended period, relying on social assistance, not only neglecting their children but also forbidding them from going outside, and even attending school. A similar but more tragic case is that of Cody Eugene Wygant in California, who took his son's life just because the child was too noisy, disrupting his gaming on Xbox. What's even more noteworthy is that Wygant had previously served time for multiple cases of abuse involving children of similar ages. Currently, he is serving an unforgiving prison sentence for his actions, but it seems that it is still too light compared to Eugene's inhuman act. Not only in Europe, but in 2010, South Korea also witnessed a case where a couple neglected their children due to excessive gaming. The game they played was Prius Online, developed by CJI, an MMORPG where players can build their own characters and even have virtual children in the game. The couple became so engrossed in raising their virtual child that they forgot they still had a young daughter at home. As you can guess, the little girl tragically passed away due to neglect. Through the mentioned cases, it is evident that bringing virtual crimes into reality is not just about reenacting some horrifying scenes from a game in real life. It also highlights the negative impact that games can have on the real world. Cases of child neglect and the heartless abandonment of children primarily result from the irresponsibility and lack of awareness of parents. Additionally, the allure of satisfaction that the virtual world provides can lead to a state of virtual addiction, distancing individuals from reality. Consequently, these situations give rise to heartbreaking stories. Anyone can be a murderer by playing games? Now, at this point, some of you might be thinking that it's as simple as banning kids from playing games, sending them to military training for a few months, and reintegrating them into society. Well, you should know about Halo 3. This is a first-person shooter game developed by Bungie in 2007. The game revolves around the war between humanity and an extraterrestrial race called the Covenant, along with the universe-spanning parasite known as the Flood. Players take on the role of the super soldier Master Chief, embarking on a journey to fight against the Covenant and Flood, seeking peace for the world. Sounds interesting, right? 16-year-old Daniel Petrick thought so too. He was a dedicated fan of Halo 3 to the extent that when his parents confiscated his Xbox and prohibited him from playing the game, Daniel retaliated with a shotgun. Unfortunately, both of his parents lost their lives at the hands of their own son. Daniel had to stand trial and faced a potential sentence of 23 years to life, depending on the court's decision. Daniel's actions sparked a debate between two opposing sides. One argued that Daniel's act of using a shotgun to send his parents to heaven was disorganized, blamed the game, and should be condemned. The other side contended that Daniel's parents were too strict in banning him from playing the game, and that it was their strictness that drove Daniel to make that tragic mistake. In another incident in South Philadelphia, a boy named Kendall Anderson also brought his mother to her final resting place with a sledgehammer for having his PlayStation confiscated. He then used an oven to make his mother less recognizable and threw her into an alley. After completing these gruesome acts, he straightforwardly ran to the police station to report his mother missing. Naturally, this gruesome incident didn't stay hidden for long, and Kendall was quickly apprehended by the police, receiving a 50-year prison sentence for his inhumane actions. In another case in August 2004, an unnamed boy who was extremely fond of the game Manhunt by Rockstar decided to bring the scenes from the game into reality. Unfortunately, his close friend became the unfortunate target and was sent to meet their maker in a far from gentle manner. The boy had to stand trial, and even with 10 mouths, his lawyer couldn't win this case. In a more alarming situation in 2008, a group of teenagers decided to commit crimes after playing GTA 4. They attempted to mimic Nico Bellic, the main character in GTA 4, by going around causing havoc with sticks and crowbars. While there were no serious injuries, they were still temporarily detained for their out-of-control behavior. These are just a few of the cases where teenagers have been involved in real-life crimes related to electronic games. From these cases, we can see that it's not by chance that many countries have enacted laws to restrict violent content in games and, in some cases, even banned certain games for their violent nature. However, the question raised here is, are video games the main cause? Looking back from the beginning of the video until now, we can see that individuals involved in crimes related to electronic games generally share some common characteristics. Firstly, they are mostly teenagers in the rebellious age, lacking awareness of the society around them. Secondly, they often have psychological issues or a tendency towards violence, with a history of criminal records or serious distorted perceptions. Thirdly, most of the cases I listed are unemployed, lacking stable jobs, and immersing themselves in the virtual world to escape failures in the real world. Considering these 3 points, it leads us to contemplate an issue. Are electronic games at fault, or do the players have issues? Personally, I lean towards the latter. You know, there's a funny saying that humans always have two parts, the beast and the human, coexisting simultaneously, and violence is a part of our nature. Let's be honest with ourselves. Have you ever had any violent thoughts in life? I'm confident that everyone has had 1 or 2 thoughts like that, and it's normal. That's how our brains operate. The noteworthy question is whether we have enough consciousness to restrain that beast within us. For a better illustration, let's consider the violence within yourself as a Coca-Cola bottle and the electronic game as a Mentos candy. If you drop the candy into the cola, it will erupt, and that's how electronic games work. Violent scenes in games stimulate the beast within you. It can incite you to perform more violent actions or, conversely, help you release the beast within you. However, as we often say, everything has a certain limit. If you play excessively and start to blur the line between virtual and reality, thinking you are an almighty figure in GTA and can comfortably cause trouble without anyone catching you, consider yourself beyond salvation. Sooner or later, you will end up committing actions similar to those mentioned above. In a simple way, some games undoubtedly carry violent content, but the game developers have provided clear classifications and warnings. If you are not of age or feel vulnerable, it's advisable to avoid them. If you choose to play, then you must take responsibility. Blaming the game afterwards is not justified. Fundamentally, a game is just a tool, and if used correctly, it's a normal form of entertainment. How you use it is entirely up to you. So, in a certain aspect, I don't entirely agree with attributing all mistakes to electronic games. For a person to become a criminal, various factors are involved, including family, society, and the individual themselves. Electronic games are just a small factor among many others. That's why blaming games for 1% and attributing the remaining 99% to other factors is overly simplistic. Of course, my opinion cannot represent everyone, so if you have a different perspective on this issue, feel free to leave a comment below. What are your thoughts on banning violent games to reduce violence in some countries? Are you satisfied with this video, or would you like me to cover another topic? Leave a message in the comments. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, remember to do so, and we'll meet again in the upcoming videos. For now, I am MG Horror Studio, goodbye, and see you in the next videos.